Mind Manipulation: Mastering the Tactics of Psychological Warfare. Written and published by the Zillion Pro. Chapter 1. The Art of Influence: Why Mind Manipulation Matters. Imagine this scenario. You walk into a room full of strangers at a networking event. As you approach one person to start a conversation, they seem friendly enough, smiling, nodding, asking polite questions. But something feels off. Their words sound genuine, but their body language tells a different story. They lean slightly away from you, glance around the room, and subtly check their phone every few minutes. You leave the conversation feeling uneasy, unsure if it was just your imagination or if something more deliberate happened. Now consider another situation. A politician delivers an inspiring speech about unity and progress. Their words resonate deeply with millions of people, stirring emotions and creating a sense of hope. Yet, behind the scenes, their campaign team has carefully crafted messages using psychological tactics designed to evoke specific reactions, exploiting cognitive biases, leveraging fear, and tapping into collective desires for security and belonging. Welcome to the world of mind manipulation, a realm where influence, persuasion, and control intersect in ways that shape our decisions, relationships, and even entire societies. Whether we realize it or not, these tactics are everywhere: in advertising, politics, social media, romantic relationships, and workplace dynamics. And while some forms of influence can be harmless or even beneficial, others can lead to exploitation, deception, and harm. What is mind manipulation? At its core, mind manipulation involves influencing someone's thoughts, feelings, or actions without them fully realizing it. It's not always malicious. Sometimes, it's used for good, such as when teachers inspire students or therapists guide clients toward healthier behaviors. However, in the wrong hands, these same techniques can become tools of domination, coercion, and control. Think about the last time you were convinced to buy something you didn't need, vote for a candidate you barely knew, or agree to a favor you weren't comfortable with. Chances are, subtle psychological tactics were at play. Understanding how these mechanisms work, and learning how to use them responsibly, is essential for navigating today's complex world. Why should you care? In an age of information overload, digital connectivity, and increasing polarization, the ability to recognize and resist manipulation has never been more critical. From targeted ads on social media to sophisticated propaganda campaigns, forces are constantly vying for your attention, trust, and loyalty. Without awareness, you risk becoming a pawn in someone else's game. But here's the good news: knowledge is power. By studying the science of influence, you can turn the tables and take control of your own mind. You'll learn how to detect manipulative tactics, protect yourself from exploitation, and wield psychological strategies ethically to achieve your goals. Who uses mind manipulation? The answer might surprise you. Everyone uses some form of influence in their daily lives, whether consciously or unconsciously. Here are just a few examples. Salespeople: they employ techniques like reciprocity, offering free samples, and scarcity, limited time offers, to encourage purchases. Politicians: they craft narratives that appeal to voters' values, fears, and aspirations. Marketers: they design advertisements that tap into emotional triggers, making products feel indispensable. Cult leaders: they exploit vulnerabilities through isolation, repetition, and authority to maintain control over followers. Parents and teachers: they use positive reinforcement and discipline to shape behavior in children. Even you likely engage in mild forms of manipulation without realizing it, whether it's complimenting a colleague to win favor or framing a request in a way that makes it harder to refuse. Key questions to ponder. As you listen to this audiobook, keep the following questions in mind. How often do I fall victim to manipulative tactics? Am I aware of the ways I influence others? Can I distinguish between ethical persuasion and harmful manipulation? What steps can I take to strengthen my mental resilience? What you'll learn in this book. Over the next several chapters, we'll delve deep into the fascinating world of psychological warfare. Together, we'll explore the fundamental principles of human psychology that underpin all forms of influence, historical and modern examples of psychological tactics in action, practical strategies for detecting and resisting manipulation, Advanced techniques for applying influence ethically and effectively. Ethical considerations and personal responsibility when wielding the power of persuasion. By the time you get to the last page of this audiobook, you'll have the tools to navigate the intricate dance of human interaction with confidence, clarity, and integrity. So buckle up, it's time to unlock the secrets of mind manipulation and discover how mastering these tactics can transform your life. Chapter 2: Historical Perspectives on Psychological Warfare. Throughout history, psychological warfare has been a cornerstone of strategy in conflicts, politics, and societal change. From ancient battles to modern digital campaigns, the principles of influence and manipulation have remained remarkably consistent. In this chapter, we'll explore how historical figures and civilizations leveraged psychological tactics to achieve their goals, uncovering timeless lessons that remain relevant today. Psychological warfare isn't just about physical combat, it's about shaping perceptions, undermining morale, and altering behavior without direct force. By studying these historical examples, we can better understand the roots of mind manipulation and learn how to apply or defend against these strategies in our own lives. Ancient strategies, Sun Tzu and beyond. One of the earliest recorded works on psychological warfare comes from Sun Tzu's The Art of War, written over 2,500 years ago. This classic text emphasizes deception, misdirection, and psychological tactics as keys to victory. Key principles from Sun Tzu. Deception. All warfare is based on deception. Misleading opponents through false movements or feigned weaknesses can create opportunities for success. Example: during the Trojan War, the Greeks used the Trojan horse, a deceptive gift that hid soldiers within, to infiltrate Troy. Psychological advantage. In winning battles often depends on breaking the enemy's willpower before engaging physically. Example: Alexander the Great would spread rumors of his invincibility to intimidate enemies before battle. Medieval and Renaissance tactics. Fear and propaganda. During the Middle Ages and Renaissance, psychological warfare evolved into sophisticated forms of propaganda, symbolism, and fearmongering. Fear as a weapon. Genghis Khan's Mongol Empire relied heavily on psychological terror. Before attacking a city, Mongol forces would leave behind grisly displays of defeated enemies to instill fear in future adversaries. Example: after conquering a town, they'd execute every 10th person publicly, ensuring compliance from survivors. Symbolic displays of power. Kings and emperors used grand ceremonies, architecture, and art to project authority and legitimacy. For instance, Louis XIV of France built the Palace of Versailles not only as a residence but also as a symbol of absolute power. Example: the sheer opulence of Versailles intimidated foreign dignitaries and reinforced the king's dominance. Propaganda in religion. Religious leaders wielded immense psychological influence during this period. The Catholic Church, for example, used sermons, art, and rituals to inspire devotion while punishing dissenters to maintain control. Example: the Crusades were justified through religious fervor, convincing thousands to fight under the banner of faith. Interactive exercise. Think of a current political or corporate figure who uses symbolic gestures or public displays to reinforce their power. What message are they trying to send, and how effective is it? Modern era world wars and propaganda machines. The 20th century saw psychological warfare reach new heights with the advent of mass media and technology. Both World War I and II showcased the power of propaganda in shaping public opinion and demoralizing enemies. World War I, the birth of modern propaganda. Governments on all sides employed posters, films, and newspapers to rally citizens and demonize opponents. Example: British propaganda depicted Germans as brutal Huns, creating widespread anti-German sentiment. Nazi Germany, a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels revolutionized the use of propaganda, using radio broadcasts, rallies, and films to manipulate public perception. Example: Leni Riefenstahl's documentary Triumph of the Will glorified Nazi ideology and created a sense of unity among Germans. Techniques included repetition, scapegoating minorities, and exploiting national pride. Cold War psychological operations. During the Cold War, both the United States and Soviet Union engaged in covert operations to undermine each other's influence. Example, the CIA funded cultural programs and publications to promote Western ideals in Eastern Europe, while the Soviets broadcast anti-American messages globally. Discussion prompt: can you think of any contemporary examples where nations or organizations use propaganda to shape global narratives? How does social media amplify these efforts? Cyber age digital psychological warfare. In the 21st century, psychological warfare has shifted to cyberspace, where algorithms, bots, and fake news dominate the battlefield. Social media manipulation. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter have become fertile ground for spreading disinformation. State actors and private entities exploit user data to target vulnerable populations with tailored content. Example, Russian interference in the 2016 US presidential election involved creating divisive content to sway voter opinions. Deepfakes and synthetic media. Advances in AI now allow for the creation of hyperrealistic videos and audio clips that blur the line between truth and fiction. Example, deepfake technology could be used to fabricate evidence of war crimes or scandals, destabilizing governments or corporations. Cyberpsychology in everyday life, even outside formal conflicts. Digital tools are used daily to influence consumer behavior, employee productivity, and personal relationships. Example, companies use gamification techniques to encourage users to spend more time on apps or make impulse purchases. Critical thinking prompt. How does the rise of digital psychological warfare challenge traditional notions of trust and authenticity? What steps can individuals take to protect themselves online? Lessons learned applying history to today. History teaches us that psychological warfare is not limited to military contexts. It permeates every aspect of human interaction. Whether in business, politics, or personal relationships, understanding these tactics empowers us to navigate complex situations effectively. Key takeaways. 1. Deception and misdirection are powerful tools when used strategically. 2. Symbolism and narrative play crucial roles in shaping perception. 3. Fear and emotion can be harnessed to drive action, but at what cost? 4. Technology amplifies psychological tactics, making them faster and more pervasive than ever before. By recognizing these patterns, we can identify when others are attempting to manipulate us and decide whether to resist, adapt, or counteract their efforts. This chapter has explored how psychological warfare has evolved across millennia, adapting to changing technologies and societal structures. As we move forward, the lessons of history remind us that the fundamental principles of influence remain constant. Chapter 3. The Science Behind Persuasion: How to Influence Without Force. Persuasion is the art of changing someone's beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors without resorting to coercion or force. It's a subtle yet powerful tool that operates at the intersection of psychology, communication, and strategy. Whether you're negotiating a deal, motivating a team, or simply trying to get your point across in a conversation, understanding the science behind persuasion can make all the difference. This chapter explores Robert Cialdini's 6 principles of persuasion: reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity, including additional techniques like framing, anchoring, and priming. Reciprocity: the gift that keeps on giving. Humans are wired to repay favors, whether consciously or subconsciously. This principle of reciprocity is one of the most reliable ways to build goodwill and foster cooperation. How it works: when someone gives us something, whether it's a tangible gift, a compliment, or even just their time, we feel an obligation to return the favor. Example, charity organizations often send free gifts, for example, address labels, with donation requests. Studies show that people are more likely to donate after receiving such a gift. Practical application: to use reciprocity ethically. Start small. Offer genuine help or kindness without expecting anything in return. Over time, this builds trust and creates opportunities for mutual benefit. Interactive exercise: think about a recent interaction where someone did something nice for you. Did you feel compelled to reciprocate? How might you apply this principle in your professional or personal life? Commitment and consistency: the power of agreement. People prefer to act consistently with their prior commitments, even if those commitments were made under pressure or manipulation. Once someone agrees to something, no matter how minor, they are more likely to follow through or escalate their involvement. Foot in the door technique: start with a small request before escalating to a larger one. For example, asking someone to sign a petition increases the likelihood they'll later contribute financially to the cause. Lowballing: make an attractive offer initially, then reveal additional costs or conditions later. Because the person has already committed to the initial agreement, they are more likely to accept the revised terms. Real-world example: car salespeople often use lowballing by quoting a great price upfront, only to add extra fees during the final negotiation. While unethical, this tactic highlights the power of commitment. Ethical consideration: use commitment strategically but transparently. Encourage others to take incremental steps toward goals they genuinely care about, rather than trapping them into agreements they don't fully understand. Social proof: safety in numbers. We tend to look to others for guidance on what's appropriate or desirable. Social proof leverage this tendency by showcasing the actions or opinions of peers, influencers, or large groups. Examples of social proof: customer reviews and ratings influence purchasing decisions. Seeing others participate in a charity event makes it more appealing to join. Influencers promoting products create a perception of popularity and desirability. Supercharged social proof: combine social proof with other principles for maximum impact. For instance, testimonials from authoritative figures or people similar to the target audience can be incredibly persuasive. Critical thinking prompt: how do businesses use social proof to shape consumer behavior? Can you identify examples in your own life where social proof influenced your choices? Liking the magnetism factor: people are more easily persuaded by those they like. Factors contributing to likability include physical attractiveness, similarity, compliments, and cooperation. Key strategies to build rapport: find common ground, highlight shared interests, values, or experiences. Use positive body language, smile, maintain eye contact, and mirror the other person's gestures. Give genuine compliments, praise specific qualities or achievements instead of generic flattery. Authority: the halo effect of expertise. We naturally defer to figures of authority, assuming they possess knowledge, wisdom, or legitimacy. This respect for authority can be both a strength and a vulnerability. How it works: titles, uniforms, credentials, and symbols of power trigger automatic deference. Advertisements featuring doctors, scientists, or celebrities exploit this principle to lend credibility to their claims. Potential pitfalls: blind obedience to authority can lead to poor decisions, as demonstrated in Stanley Milgram's famous experiments where participants administered electric shocks because an authority figure instructed them to do so. Ethical tip: use authority responsibly by backing up your arguments with evidence and expertise. Avoid relying solely on titles or appearances to manipulate others. Scarcity: the fear of missing out, FOMO. Perceived limited availability creates urgency and desire. People value things more when they believe they are rare or hard to obtain. Examples of scarcity: limited time offers, act now. Supplies are running out. Exclusive access membership programs, VIP events, or beta testing invitations. Unique opportunities, one-of-a-kind items or experiences. Why it works: scarcity taps into our primal fear of loss, pushing us to act quickly to avoid regret. Interactive exercise: reflect on a purchase you made due to scarcity messaging. Was it truly necessary, or did the urgency cloud your judgment? Advanced techniques: framing, anchoring, and priming. Beyond Cialdini's principles, there are additional psychological tactics worth exploring. Framing: the way information is presented affects how it's perceived. Positive framing emphasizes benefits, while negative framing highlights risks. Example: a health campaign might say, 90% of people survive this disease, positive, or 10% of people die from this disease, negative. Anchoring: an initial piece of information serves as a reference point for subsequent judgments. Example: listing a high starting price for a car negotiation sets the expectation, making lower prices seem reasonable in comparison. Priming: exposure to certain stimuli subtly influences later thoughts and actions. Example: seeing words related to aging can make people walk slower without realizing it. Application in everyday life: pay attention to how these techniques are used in marketing, politics, and interpersonal interactions. Learn to recognize them so you can respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Balancing ethics and effectiveness. While persuasion is a valuable skill, it must be wielded ethically. Manipulation crosses the line when it exploits vulnerabilities, deceives, or disregards autonomy. Guidelines for ethical persuasion. 1. Respect the other person's right to choose freely. 2. Be honest and transparent about your intentions. 3. Focus on creating win-win outcomes rather than exploiting weaknesses. This chapter has provided a comprehensive overview of the science behind persuasion, equipping you with practical tools to influence others effectively. From reciprocity and social proof to scarcity and framing, these principles are rooted in human psychology and have been tested across cultures and contexts. Chapter 4: Detecting Manipulative Tactics. Recognizing when you're being played. Manipulation is often subtle, cloaked in charm, logic, or urgency. It can happen in personal relationships, at work, in marketing campaigns, and even in politics. While some forms of influence are harmless or even beneficial, others can be exploitative, leading to emotional distress, financial loss, or damaged trust. This chapter examines the red flags of manipulative behavior, uncover common tactics used by influencers, and provide strategies for recognizing these techniques when they are being employed against you. By sharpening your awareness, you'll become better equipped to protect yourself from manipulation while maintaining healthy boundaries. Red flags of manipulative behavior. Before diving into specific tactics, it's essential to recognize the warning signs that someone might be trying to manipulate you. Here are some key indicators. 1. Gaslighting. Making you question your own reality or sanity. Example: a partner consistently denies saying something hurtful, claiming you're imagining things. 2. Emotional blackmail. Using guilt, fear, or obligation to control your actions. Example: a friend says, if you really cared about me, you'd do this favor. 3. Projection. Accusing you of behaviors or traits they themselves exhibit. Example: someone who frequently lies accuses you of dishonesty. 4. Triangulation. Playing two parties against each other to create division or confusion. Example: a manager tells one employee that another is undermining their work. 5. Love bombing. Showering you with excessive attention or affection early in a relationship to build dependency. Example: a romantic interest sends multiple gifts and messages daily, creating an intense bond quickly. 6. Deflection. Avoiding accountability by shifting blame or changing the subject. Example: when confronted about overspending, a person responds, well, what about your mistakes? Exercise. Think back to a recent interaction where you felt uneasy or unsure of yourself afterward. Did any of these red flags appear? If so, how did you respond? Common manipulative tactics. Manipulators employ a variety of techniques to achieve their goals. Below are some of the most prevalent methods, along with examples and countermeasures. 1. Lying by omission. Instead of outright lying, manipulators withhold critical information to steer your perception. Example: a salesperson highlights only the positive features of a product while omitting its flaws. Countermeasure: ask pointed questions and seek second opinions before making decisions. 2. False promises. Manipulators make promises they have no intention of keeping to gain compliance. Example: a colleague offers to help with a project but never follows through, leaving you to pick up the slack. Countermeasure: focus on actions over words and establish clear expectations upfront. 3. Divide and conquer. Creating conflict between allies to weaken opposition or gain leverage. Example: in a workplace dispute, a manipulative coworker spreads rumors to isolate a rival team member. Countermeasure: foster open communication and collaboration among your network. 4. Playing the victim. Manipulators portray themselves as helpless or wrong to evoke sympathy and avoid responsibility. Example: a family member constantly complains about their struggles while refusing to take constructive advice. Countermeasure: set firm boundaries and refuse to engage in one-sided dynamics. 5. Feigned ignorance. Pretending not to understand or remember important details to avoid accountability. Example: during a negotiation, a manipulator claims, I didn't realize that clause was in the contract. Countermeasure: keep detailed records and clarify terms explicitly. 6. Exploiting weaknesses. identifying and leveraging vulnerabilities such as insecurity, guilt, or fear. Example, a scammer targets elderly individuals by exploiting their desire for companionship. Countermeasure, strengthen self-awareness and surround yourself with supportive people. Psychological traps to watch out for. Beyond individual tactics, manipulators often rely on broader psychological traps designed to cloud judgment and erode resistance. 1. The halo effect. Assuming someone is trustworthy or competent based on superficial qualities like appearance or charisma. Example, a charismatic politician convinces voters of their integrity despite questionable policies. Defense, separate style from substance and evaluate actions objectively. 2. Cognitive dissonance. Feeling uncomfortable when holding conflicting beliefs, leading to rationalization or denial. Example, after buying an expensive item, you convince yourself it was necessary to justify the expense. Defense, practice mindfulness and acknowledge inconsistencies without judgment. 3. Sunk cost fallacy. Continuing an endeavor because of prior investment, even if it's no longer worthwhile. Example, staying in a toxic relationship because of years spent together. Defense, regularly reassess commitments and prioritize future well-being over past sacrifices. 4. Confirmation bias. Favoring information that supports pre-existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. Example, selectively quoting sources that align with your political views. Defense, seek diverse perspectives and challenge assumptions regularly. Real-world examples of manipulation. Understanding theory is crucial, but seeing these tactics in action brings them to life. Below are 3 case studies illustrating different types of manipulation. Case study 1, workplace bullying. Scenario, a manager undermines an employee's confidence by publicly criticizing their work while taking credit for their ideas. Analysis, this combines gaslighting, deflection, and exploitation of weaknesses to maintain control. Solution, document incidents, seek support from HR, and focus on building resilience. Case study 2, romantic relationships. Scenario, a partner uses love bombing to create dependency, then employs emotional blackmail to control decisions. Analysis, this tactic exploits attachment needs and creates a cycle of reward and punishment. Solution, establish clear boundaries, communicate openly, and consider seeking therapy if needed. Case study 3, scams and fraud. Scenario, a phishing email impersonates a bank, urging immediate action to prevent account closure. Analysis, this leverages urgency, scarcity, and authority to bypass critical thinking. Solution, verify requests independently and report suspicious activity promptly. Strategies for protecting yourself. Once you've identified manipulative tactics, the next step is learning how to defend against them. Here are practical strategies to safeguard your mental and emotional well-being. 1. Stay grounded in reality. Trust your instincts and validate your experiences. Don't let others define your truth. 2. Set clear boundaries. Communicate limits firmly but respectfully. For example, I'm happy to help, but I need advance notice. 3. Develop emotional intelligence. Cultivate self-awareness and empathy to navigate complex social situations effectively. 4. Seek support. Surround yourself with trusted friends, mentors, or professionals who can offer perspective and guidance. 5. Practice critical thinking. Question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and remain skeptical of overly persuasive narratives. 6. Learn to say no. Politely declining unreasonable requests reinforces your autonomy and reduces opportunities for manipulation. Reflection and growth. Detecting manipulation isn't just about spotting bad actors, it's also about understanding why certain tactics resonate with us personally. Are there patterns in your life where you've been vulnerable to manipulation? What steps can you take to strengthen your defenses moving forward? Exercise. Write down a situation where you felt manipulated. Identify which tactics were used and how you could handle it differently next time. This chapter has armed you with the knowledge and tools to recognize manipulative tactics and protect yourself from undue influence. Remember, detecting manipulation doesn't mean becoming cynical, it means staying informed, assertive, and empathetic. Chapter 5, Building Emotional Resilience, Protecting Yourself Against Manipulation. Emotional resilience is the ability to adapt, recover, and thrive in the face of challenges, stress, or manipulation. In a world where psychological tactics are constantly at play, developing emotional resilience is not just beneficial, it's essential. Whether it's dealing with toxic relationships, navigating workplace politics, or resisting societal pressures, emotional resilience equips you with the mental fortitude to stand firm and make decisions that align with your values. In this chapter, we'll explore what emotional resilience entails, why it matters in protecting against manipulation, and practical strategies for building and maintaining it. By the end, you'll have a roadmap for strengthening your emotional core and safeguarding your well-being. Understanding emotional resilience. At its core, emotional resilience involves three key components. 1. Self-awareness, recognizing your emotions, triggers, and patterns of behavior. Example, knowing that you tend to lash out when stressed allows you to pause and respond more thoughtfully. 2. Adaptability, being flexible in how you approach problems and manage change. Example, when faced with unexpected criticism, you focus on learning from it rather than letting it derail you. 3. Inner strength, cultivating confidence and optimism, even in difficult situations. Example, after being manipulated in a relationship, you trust yourself to recognize red flags in future partners. Resilient individuals don't avoid discomfort, they navigate it with clarity, purpose, and grace. They understand that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's part of growth. Why emotional resilience matters in combating manipulation. Manipulators often target people who lack emotional stability because they are easier to exploit. Here's how emotional resilience acts as a shield against manipulation, preventing gaslighting. Strong self-awareness helps you trust your perceptions, making it harder for others to distort reality. Reducing vulnerability. By addressing insecurities and fears, you limit the leverage manipulators can use against you. Enhancing decision-making. Resilience fosters critical thinking and reduces impulsivity, allowing you to evaluate situations objectively. Promoting boundaries. A resilient mindset empowers you to set and enforce healthy limits without guilt or hesitation. Strategies for building emotional resilience. Building emotional resilience requires consistent effort and practice. Below are actionable strategies to help you develop this vital skill. 1. Cultivate self-awareness. Keep a journal to track your thoughts, feelings, and reactions. Practice mindfulness meditation to stay present and observe your emotions without judgment. Identify your personal triggers and learn to anticipate them. 2. Develop emotional intelligence, EQ. Enhance empathy by actively listening to others and considering their perspectives. Learn to regulate your emotions through techniques like deep breathing, visualization, or progressive muscle relaxation. Build social skills to foster supportive relationships and networks. 3. Challenge negative thought patterns. Replace catastrophic thinking with realistic assessments. For example, instead of assuming everyone will hate me if I speak up, remind yourself that disagreement doesn't mean rejection. Reframe setbacks as opportunities for growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? 4. Set healthy boundaries. Clearly define what behaviors you will and won't tolerate. Communicate boundaries assertively but respectfully. Use phrases like, I appreciate your concern, but I need to prioritize my own needs right now. Enforce consequences if boundaries are crossed. 5. Practice gratitude and positivity. Regularly acknowledge things you're grateful for, no matter how small. Surround yourself with positive influences, people, books, or activities that uplift you. Focus on solutions rather than dwelling on problems. 6. Build physical health. Exercise releases endorphins, which improve mood and reduce stress. Proper nutrition and sleep enhance cognitive function and emotional regulation. Spend time outdoors to recharge and reconnect with nature. 7. Seek support when needed. Don't hesitate to reach out to friends, family, or professionals if you're struggling. Join support groups or communities centered around shared interests or goals. Consider therapy or coaching to work through deeper issues. Real-life applications of emotional resilience. Let's look at how emotional resilience plays out in different contexts. 1. In personal relationships. Example, your partner accuses you of being untrustworthy after a minor misunderstanding. Instead of reacting defensively, you take a moment to breathe, validate their feelings, and calmly explain your perspective. This prevents escalation and strengthens communication. 2. At work. Example, a colleague undermines your ideas during a meeting. Rather than feeling defeated, you use the feedback constructively and seek allies to reinforce your contributions. Over time, your confidence grows, and you become less susceptible to such tactics. 3. In social media and digital spaces. Example, you come across misleading information or inflammatory comments online. Instead of engaging emotionally, you fact-check the content and decide whether to respond or disengage. This protects your mental health and promotes informed decision-making. Strengthening resilience through adversity. Paradoxically, some of the most powerful lessons in resilience come from adversity itself. Difficult experiences teach us about our limits, capabilities, and values. To harness these opportunities, reframe challenges, view obstacles as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Learn from mistakes, analyze failures objectively, and identify areas for improvement. Celebrate small wins, acknowledge progress along the way to maintain motivation. This chapter has provided a comprehensive framework for building emotional resilience, a critical defense mechanism against manipulation and other forms of psychological pressure. By enhancing self-awareness, developing emotional intelligence, setting boundaries, and practicing gratitude, you can cultivate the inner strength necessary to navigate life's complexities with confidence and poise. Chapter 6: Tactical Deception in Everyday Life. Using Psychology Wisely. While manipulation often carries a negative connotation, not all forms of influence are harmful. In fact, many successful individuals and organizations use psychological tactics ethically to achieve positive outcomes. From negotiating business deals to fostering healthy relationships, tactical deception, when used responsibly, can be a powerful tool for personal and professional growth. In this chapter, let's explore how you can apply psychological principles in everyday situations without crossing ethical boundaries. We'll examine real-life scenarios where tactical deception is beneficial and provide practical strategies for using these techniques effectively. Defining tactical deception. Tactical deception involves strategically influencing others' perceptions, emotions, or actions to achieve a desired outcome while maintaining integrity and respect for their autonomy. Unlike manipulation, which seeks to exploit vulnerabilities, tactical deception aims to create win-win situations that benefit everyone involved. Key characteristics of tactical deception. Intentional, it's deliberate and purposeful. Transparent, while it may involve withholding certain details temporarily, it doesn't rely on outright lies. Mutually beneficial, the goal is to enhance collaboration, productivity, or understanding. Example, a manager uses framing to present a challenging project as an exciting opportunity for growth, motivating the team without misleading them about its difficulties. Scenarios where tactical deception is useful. 1. Negotiations. Technique, anchoring and framing. Example, during salary negotiations, you might anchor the conversation with a higher number than your actual expectation, leaving room for compromise. Ethical consideration, ensure the anchor is reasonable and aligned with market standards. 2. Leadership. Technique, social proof and commitment. Example, a leader highlights successful past projects to build confidence in a new initiative, encouraging employees to commit to the vision. Ethical consideration, avoid exaggerating results or omitting critical risks. 3. Parenting. Technique, positive reinforcement and choice architecture. Example, instead of demanding chores, parents frame tasks as opportunities to earn privileges, giving children a sense of agency. Ethical consideration, balance encouragement with realistic expectations. 4. Marketing. Technique, scarcity and reciprocity. Example, a company offers a limited time discount or free trial to encourage customers to try their product. Ethical consideration, clearly disclose terms and avoid creating false urgency. 5. A conflict resolution. Technique, reframing and empathy. Example, in a disagreement, reframe opposing viewpoints to find common ground, such as acknowledging shared goals despite differing methods. Ethical consideration, focus on mutual understanding rather than winning the argument. Practical strategies for ethical influence. Here are actionable techniques for applying tactical deception wisely. 1. Use framing to shape perceptions. Present information in a way that highlights benefits or aligns with the other person's values. Example, instead of saying, This will require extra effort. Say, this is a chance to showcase your skills. 2. Leverage reciprocity thoughtfully. Offer genuine help or support without expecting immediate returns. Example, mentor a colleague who needs guidance, knowing that they may reciprocate by sharing valuable insights later. 3. Employ social proof strategically. Share testimonials, case studies, or success stories to build credibility. Example, when pitching an idea, mention similar initiatives that have worked elsewhere. 4. Create win-win solutions. Find compromises that satisfy both parties' needs. Example, in a partnership negotiation, propose terms that address each side's priorities equally. 5. Build trust through transparency. Be honest about intentions and limitations. Example, if a project has potential risks, communicate them upfront while emphasizing mitigation strategies. 6. Foster empathy and connection. Listen actively and validate others' feelings before presenting your perspective. Example, before addressing a conflict, acknowledge the other person's concerns to show you understand their position. Case studies of ethical influence. Let's explore how tactical deception works in practice through 3 real-world examples. Case study 1. Salesperson building long-term relationships. Scenario: a salesperson builds rapport with clients by offering free consultations and personalized advice, even if it means losing short-term sales. Outcome: clients trust the salesperson and become loyal customers over time. Lesson: prioritizing long-term relationships over quick wins fosters sustainable success. Case study 2. Manager motivating a struggling team. Scenario: a manager reframes a tight deadline as a challenge to prove the team's capabilities, boosting morale and productivity. Outcome: the team completes the project successfully and gains confidence in their abilities. Lesson: reframing challenges into opportunities can inspire action and resilience. Case study 3. Parent encouraging healthy habits. Scenario: a parent turns mealtime into a game, rewarding kids for trying new foods with stickers or praise. Outcome: kids develop healthier eating habits while enjoying the process. Lesson: combining fun with education makes learning and behavior change more effective. Balancing assertiveness with empathy. To use tactical deception effectively, it's crucial to strike a balance between assertiveness and empathy. Being too aggressive can alienate others, while being overly passive may undermine your goals. Here's how to find the sweet spot. 1. Stay grounded in your values. Align your actions with your principles to maintain authenticity. Example, if honesty is important to you, always ensure your tactics don't involve dishonesty. 2. Consider the other person's perspective. Anticipate how your approach might be perceived and adjust accordingly. Example, before delivering constructive criticism, think about how the recipient might react and choose your words carefully. 3. Adapt based on feedback. Pay attention to verbal and nonverbal cues to gauge whether your strategy is working. Example, if someone seems defensive during a negotiation, pivot to a more collaborative tone. Mastery through integrity. This chapter has demonstrated how tactical deception, when applied ethically, can enhance communication, negotiation, and leadership in various aspects of life. By combining psychological insights with empathy and integrity, you can achieve your goals while strengthening relationships and building trust. Chapter 7: Social Engineering and Cyber Manipulation. Digital Age Tactics. In the modern era, psychological warfare has shifted significantly into the digital realm. With the proliferation of social media, artificial intelligence, and big data, manipulative tactics have become more sophisticated and pervasive than ever before. From phishing scams to targeted advertising, cyber manipulation exploits human psychology on an unprecedented scale. This chapter looks into the world of social engineering and cyber manipulation, uncovering how hackers, scammers, and even legitimate organizations use psychological tactics online. We'll examine common techniques and offer strategies for staying safe in a hyperconnected world. Understanding social engineering. Social engineering refers to the art of manipulating people into divulging sensitive information or performing actions that compromise security. Unlike traditional hacking, which relies on technical vulnerabilities, social engineering targets the weakest link in any system: human behavior. Key principles of social engineering. Trust exploitation, building rapport to gain access to restricted information. Authority mimicry, pretending to hold power or legitimacy to command compliance. Urgency creation, using time pressure to bypass critical thinking. Example, a scammer posing as an IT support technician calls an employee, claiming there's a security breach. They ask for login credentials to fix the issue immediately, exploiting trust and urgency. Common techniques in cyber manipulation. 1. Phishing scams. How it works: attackers send fraudulent emails or messages designed to trick recipients into revealing personal information, for example, passwords, credit card numbers. Psychological tactics used. Authority. Emails appear to come from reputable sources like banks or government agencies. Urgency. Messages warn of dire consequences if immediate action isn't taken. Real-world example, during tax season, scammers send fake IRS notifications demanding payment to avoid penalties. 2. Spear phishing. How it works: a more targeted form of phishing. Spear phishing uses personalized information to increase credibility. Psychological tactics used. Familiarity. Attackers research their victims to mimic trusted contacts or colleagues. Curiosity. Subject lines or attachments promise intriguing content. Real-world example, an attacker sends an email to a CEO, pretending to be a business partner discussing confidential merger details. 3. Pretexting. How it works: creating a fabricated scenario to extract specific information. Psychological tactics used. Empathy, pretending to need help due to hardship or emergency. Obligation, making requests seem reasonable or expected. Real-world example, a scammer pretends to be a utility company representative asking for account verification over the phone. 4. Baiting. How it works: offering something desirable, for example, free software, exclusive deals, to lure victims into downloading malware. Psychological tactics used. Greed, promising rewards too good to resist. Curiosity, encouraging users to click links or download files out of interest. Real-world example, a pop-up ad offering a free antivirus scan leads to malicious software installation. 5. Deepfakes and synthetic media. How it works: our generated videos or audio clips manipulate reality, making it difficult to distinguish truth from fiction. Psychological tactics used. Credibility. Deepfakes can imitate authoritative figures or celebrities convincingly. Shock value. Fabricated events or statements grab attention and spread rapidly. Real-world example, a deepfake video showing a political leader making inflammatory remarks goes viral, influencing public opinion. Psychological triggers in cyber manipulation. Successful cyber manipulation leveraged fundamental aspects of human psychology. Below are some key triggers commonly exploited. 1. Fear. Threatening scenarios, for example, account suspension, legal action, prompt quick reactions without careful consideration. 2. Curiosity. Intriguing subject lines, images, or promises encourage clicks, leading to potential exposure to malware. 3. Greed. Offers of money, prizes, or discounts exploit desires for instant gratification. 4. Empathy. Appeals to compassion or generosity make people less likely to question authenticity. 5. FOMO. Fear of missing out. Limited time offers or exclusive opportunities create urgency and reduce resistance. Real-world examples of cyber manipulation. Case Study 1. Cambridge Analytica Scandal. Scenario: during the 2016 U.S. presidential election, Cambridge Analytica harvested millions of Facebook users' data to deliver hyper-targeted ads aimed at swaying voter opinions. Outcome: the scandal highlighted the dangers of combining big data with psychological profiling to influence democratic processes. Lesson: protect your privacy settings and scrutinize apps requesting excessive permissions. Case Study 2. Business email compromise. Beck. Scenario: a hacker impersonates a company executive via email, instructing employees to transfer funds to a fraudulent account. Outcome: organizations lose billions annually to Beck attacks, often because employees fail to verify requests independently. Lesson: always confirm suspicious financial transactions through secondary channels. Case Study 3. Ransomware attacks. Scenario: hackers infiltrate systems using phishing techniques, encrypting critical data and demanding ransom payments. Outcome: victims face significant financial losses and operational disruptions. Lesson: regularly back up important files and educate staff about phishing risks. Strategies for staying safe online. To protect yourself against social engineering and cyber manipulation, adopt these proactive measures. 1. Stay informed. Keep up with the latest trends in cyber threats and update security protocols accordingly. Example, subscribe to cybersecurity newsletters or attend webinars. 2. Verify before acting. Double-check the legitimacy of emails, links, and requests before responding. Example, hover over links to preview URLs or call contacts directly to confirm urgent matters. 3. Enhance password security. Use strong, unique passwords and enable two-factor authentication wherever possible. Example, consider password managers to simplify secure credential management. 4. Limit personal information sharing. Be cautious about posting sensitive details on social media or filling out online forms. Example, avoid sharing full birth dates, addresses, or phone numbers publicly. 5. Install reliable antivirus software. Ensure devices are protected against malware and regularly updated. Example, set automatic updates for operating systems and applications. 6. Develop critical thinking skills. Question everything and evaluate claims critically before taking action. Example, if an offer seems too good to be true, research its validity independently. Ethical implications of cyber manipulation. While many cyber tactics are malicious, some organizations use similar techniques ethically for marketing or customer engagement. For instance, companies analyze browsing history to personalize product recommendations. Non-profits leverage emotional storytelling to inspire donations. However, ethical boundaries must always guide such practices. Transparency, clearly disclose data collection methods and purposes. Consent, obtain explicit permission before using personal information. Respect, avoid exploiting vulnerabilities or creating undue pressure. Safeguarding your digital presence. This chapter has illuminated the intricate world of social engineering and cyber manipulation, revealing how psychological tactics underpin many online threats. By understanding these techniques and implementing robust safeguards, you can navigate the digital age confidently and securely. Chapter 8. Group Dynamics and Mass Manipulation. Controlling crowds, shaping societies. Human beings are inherently social creatures. From families to communities, organizations to nations, we thrive in groups. However, this same tendency to seek connection and belonging also makes us vulnerable to manipulation on a collective scale. Whether through propaganda, cults, or political campaigns, mass manipulation leverage group dynamics to influence attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. In this chapter, we'll look into the psychology of group behavior, explore historical examples of mass manipulation, and examine how these tactics continue to shape modern society. By understanding the mechanisms behind crowd control and societal influence, you'll gain insight into both resisting and responsibly applying these strategies. Understanding group dynamics. Group dynamics refers to the ways individuals interact within a collective setting. These interactions are influenced by several key factors. 1. Social identity theory. People derive part of their self-concept from the groups they belong to. This fosters loyalty but can also lead to in-group favoritism and out-group bias. Example, fans of rival sports teams often exhibit strong loyalty toward their own group while demonizing the opposition. 2. Conformity. Individuals tend to align their actions and opinions with those of the group, especially when uncertain or under pressure. Example, in Solomon Asker's famous conformity experiments, participants conformed to incorrect answers given by a unanimous majority, even when the right answer was obvious. 3. Deindividuation. In large groups, individuals may lose their sense of personal identity and accountability, leading to impulsive or extreme behaviors. Example, during protests or riots, some individuals might engage in actions they wouldn't consider alone due to the anonymity provided by the crowd. 4. Normative influence versus informational influence. Normative influence occurs when people conform to fit in or gain approval. Informational influence happens when people rely on others for guidance, believing the group knows best. Historical examples of mass manipulation. Throughout history, leaders and organizations have exploited group dynamics to achieve their goals, sometimes for good, often for ill. Below are 3 notable examples. 1. The Nazi propaganda machine. Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels masterfully used propaganda to unify Germany under nationalist ideals while scapegoating Jewish people. Tactics included creating an enemy, the Jews, to rally against, using symbols like the swastika and parades to evoke pride and unity, controlling media to spread misinformation and suppress dissent. 2. Cult leadership and groupthink. Cult leaders exploit group dynamics by fostering dependency, isolation, and shared belief systems. Example: Jim Jones of the People's Temple used fear, charisma, and community bonding to maintain control, culminating in the tragic Jonestown massacre. Key tactic: encouraging members to cut ties with outsiders to reinforce loyalty. 3. Soviet-era brainwashing techniques. The Soviet Union employed psychological conditioning to instill loyalty to the state. Methods included re-education camps where prisoners were forced to denounce past beliefs, public trials designed to humiliate dissidents and deter opposition, state-controlled media that glorified communism and vilified capitalism. Modern-day mass manipulation. Today, mass manipulation takes many forms, often leveraging technology and psychology to amplify its reach. 1. Political campaigns. Politicians use data analytics, targeted advertising, and emotional appeals to sway voters. Example: during election cycles, candidates highlight divisive issues to polarize audiences and mobilize supporters. 2. Social media algorithms. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter prioritize content that generates engagement, often amplifying sensational or polarizing material. Consequence: echo chambers form, reinforcing existing biases and reducing exposure to opposing viewpoints. 3. Corporate marketing strategies. Companies craft narratives around products to create a sense of community among consumers. Example: Apple positions itself as a brand for innovators and creatives, encouraging customers to identify with this image. 4. Conspiracy theories and misinformation. False narratives spread rapidly online, exploiting fears and uncertainties to recruit followers. Example: anti-vaccination movements use emotionally charged stories to discredit scientific evidence and build trust within their communities. Psychological mechanisms behind mass manipulation. Mass manipulation succeeds because it taps into universal psychological principles. Below are some core mechanisms at play. 1. Fear and uncertainty. People are more susceptible to manipulation when feeling threatened or unsure about the future. Example: scare tactics during wartime rallies citizens behind nationalistic causes. 2. Appeals to emotion. Emotional messages bypass rational thinking, making them highly effective tools for persuasion. Example: heartwarming ads featuring animals or children evoke empathy and generosity. 3. Authority and legitimacy. Figures perceived as authoritative or legitimate command greater compliance. Example: governments justify surveillance programs by claiming they are necessary for national security. 4. Repetition and consistency. Repeated exposure to ideas increases familiarity and acceptance. Example: slogans like "Make America Great Again" become ingrained through constant repetition. 5. Social proof. Large numbers of supporters lend credibility to a cause, encouraging others to join. Example: viral challenges or trends on social media attract participation simply because so many people are involved. Resisting mass manipulation. To protect yourself and your community from mass manipulation, adopt the following strategies. 1. Develop critical thinking skills. Question assumptions, evaluate sources critically, and seek diverse perspectives. Example: before sharing an article online, verify its accuracy using reputable fact-checking websites. 2. Foster media literacy. Understand how algorithms, advertising, and propaganda work to manipulate perceptions. Example: teach children to recognize biased language or hidden agendas in news stories. 3. Encourage open dialogue. Promote respectful discussions across ideological divides to break down echo chambers. Example: host community forums where differing opinions can be expressed constructively. 4. Build resilient communities. Strengthen local connections to counteract feelings of alienation or disenfranchisement. Example: volunteer for neighborhood initiatives or support grassroots organizations. 5. Stay informed about emerging threats. Keep abreast of new technologies and tactics used in mass manipulation. Example, follow cybersecurity experts who track deepfake developments and other digital threats. Ethical considerations in mass influence. While mass manipulation is often associated with negative outcomes, there are ethical ways to apply these principles for positive change. For instance, public health campaigns use emotional appeals to encourage vaccination or healthy habits. Social justice movements leverage storytelling to raise awareness and inspire action. However, ethical boundaries must always guide such efforts. Transparency, clearly disclose intentions and methods. Respect, avoid exploiting vulnerabilities or undermining autonomy. Accountability, take responsibility for unintended consequences. Harnessing the power of groups positively. This chapter has examined the intricate interplay between group dynamics and mass manipulation, revealing how psychological principles shape collective behavior. By recognizing these forces, you can better navigate complex social environments and advocate for ethical influence. Chapter 9: Advanced Techniques for High-Stakes Situations. Mastering the Game. The Art of High-Stakes Influence. In high-pressure environments, whether negotiating multi-million-dollar deals, leading during crises, or navigating complex interpersonal conflicts, the stakes are higher, and the margin for error is razor-thin. Success in these situations requires not only a deep understanding of psychological principles but also the ability to apply them strategically under intense scrutiny. This chapter explores advanced techniques for wielding influence effectively in high-stakes scenarios. We'll examine negotiation tactics, body language decoding, storytelling strategies, and other tools that can help you achieve your goals while maintaining integrity. By mastering these skills, you'll be better equipped to navigate the most challenging interactions with confidence and finesse. Negotiation tactics for high-pressure environments. Negotiations often involve competing interests, limited resources, and significant emotional investment. To succeed, you need more than just preparation, you need psychological insight. 1. Anchoring effectively. Start with an ambitious yet reasonable offer to set the tone for the discussion. Example, in salary negotiations, propose a figure slightly above your target to leave room for compromise. 2. Building rapport quickly. Use mirroring techniques, subtly mimicking the other party's gestures or speech patterns, to establish trust. Example, if the other person speaks slowly and deliberately, match their pace to create subconscious alignment. 3. Framing offers creatively. Present concessions as gains rather than losses to make them more palatable. Example, instead of saying, "We'll reduce our price by 5%, say, "You'll save 5% on this deal." 4. Using silence strategically. Pausing after making an offer can increase pressure on the other party to respond first. Example, after stating your terms, maintain eye contact and wait calmly for a reaction. 5. Exploring win-win solutions. Focus on mutual benefits rather than zero-sum outcomes to foster collaboration. Example, suggest combining elements of both parties' proposals into a hybrid solution. Reading body language and micro-expressions. Nonverbal communication accounts for up to 55% of how we interpret messages. In high-stakes situations, paying attention to subtle cues can provide valuable insights into others' thoughts and feelings. 1. Understanding micro-expressions. These fleeting facial expressions reveal true emotions even when someone tries to conceal them. Example, a quick flash of anger might indicate resistance to a particular proposal. 2. Decoding gestures. Crossed arms may signal defensiveness, while open palms suggest honesty. Example, notice if someone begins crossing their arms after you introduce a contentious point. 3. Analyzing eye contact. Prolonged eye contact can convey confidence, while frequent glances away may hint at discomfort. Example, during a job interview, steady eye contact demonstrates poise and interest. For listening to vocal tone, changes in pitch, volume, or speed can betray underlying emotions. Example, a sudden drop in voice tone might suggest hesitation or doubt. Storytelling for persuasion. Stories are powerful tools for engaging emotions, building connections, and influencing decisions. In high-stakes settings, crafting compelling narratives can sway opinions and inspire action. 1. Structuring your narrative. Follow the classic story arc: setup, conflict, resolution. Example, when pitching a business idea, describe the problem, explain your solution, and showcase its impact. 2. Appealing to emotions. Use vivid imagery and relatable characters to evoke empathy or excitement. Example, a charity campaign featuring a single child story resonates more deeply than statistics alone. 3. Highlighting shared values. Connect your message to universal principles like fairness, progress, or family. Example, a political candidate emphasizes unity and shared prosperity to appeal across demographics. 4. Anticipating counter-arguments. Address potential object-irons within your narrative to preempt resistance. Example, acknowledge risks associated with a new venture before outlining mitigation strategies. Advanced psychological strategies. Beyond traditional techniques, there are several cutting-edge approaches worth exploring. 1. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. NLP focuses on aligning language and behavior to enhance communication and persuasion. Example, using embedded commands, "You're going to love this opportunity," to subtly guide thinking. 2. Cognitive load manipulation. Overloading someone with information can overwhelm their decision-making capacity, making them more likely to accept simpler solutions. Example, presenting multiple technical details in rapid succession to nudge agreement on key points. 3. Foot-in-the-door technique, advanced version. Begin with a small request designed to build momentum toward larger commitments. Example, asking for feedback on a minor aspect of a project before seeking full approval. 4. Persuasion. Shape perceptions beforehand to prime favorable responses later. Example, sending a positive testimonial ahead of a sales meeting to create goodwill. Real-world applications. Let's explore how these advanced techniques play out in practice through 3 case studies. Case Study 1, International Diplomacy. Scenario, 2 countries negotiate a trade agreement amidst rising tensions. Outcome, by framing concessions as joint victories and using storytelling to highlight shared economic benefits, negotiators secure a mutually beneficial pact. Lesson, focus on collaboration over competition to overcome adversarial dynamics. Case Study 2, Crisis Leadership. Scenario, a CEO addresses employees following a major scandal. Outcome, through transparency, empathy, and a clear plan for reform, the leader restores trust and motivates the team to move forward. Lesson, authenticity and vision are crucial in rebuilding credibility during crises. Case Study 3, High-Stakes Sales Pitch. Scenario, a startup founder pitches their product to venture capitalists. Outcome, by weaving a compelling narrative around the product's mission and leveraging social proof from early adopters, the founder secures funding. Lesson, combine emotional resonance with logical evidence to maximize persuasiveness. Balancing power and ethics. With great power comes great responsibility. While advanced techniques can amplify your influence, they must always be wielded ethically. Consider the following guidelines. 1. Respect autonomy. Ensure all parties have the freedom to make informed decisions without coercion. 2. Avoid exploitation. Refrain from targeting vulnerabilities or creating false urgency. 3. Maintain transparency. Disclose intentions and methods whenever possible to preserve trust. 4. Pursue mutual benefit. Aim for outcomes that serve everyone's interests, not just your own. Achieving mastery through integrity. This chapter has provided a toolkit of advanced techniques for excelling in high-stakes situations. From negotiation tactics and body language decoding to storytelling and ethical considerations, these strategies empower you to influence effectively while staying grounded in your principles. As we conclude this audiobook, remember that mastery of psychological warfare isn't about dominance, it's about understanding, connecting, and achieving harmony between personal goals and collective well-being. Whether in business, politics, or everyday life, the lessons herein will serve you well. Congratulations! You have made it to the end. May you use your newfound knowledge wisely and responsibly.